Good morning, friends. It's a Monday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in the world, to all my friends who are taking care of families, not just real fathers, but those who are acting like one and making sure that life is safe and there's provision for everyone. Good morning. We face another work week. I hope you're excited to face another work week. Today we talk about fathers and role models. Welcome to Mark Your Day. Grab your cup of coffee. Are you ready with your cup of coffee? Thank you everyone for joining me today. Alam niyo po, I had a wonderful time yesterday. We hosted my dad, my parents-in-law, my sister and her husband also dropped by. So we had a wonderful time observing social distancing as much as we could. But for our oldies, since they were also quarantined in their own home, then we could give them a nice hug. And I hope you had a wonderful time too. Are you ready with your cup of coffee? I'm ready with my cup of coffee. And good morning, Tito Gilbert Lazaro. I'm ready with my cupcake. I don't usually eat an early breakfast these days. I usually eat around 10 o'clock after the show. And so I am ready to enjoy today. You know what? I've been thinking what to do today. And yesterday, as I was just enjoying the day with my dad and my dad-in-law and my brother-in-law, I thought, let's talk about being fathers. And let's talk about the role models we have in our lives. Because I'd like to begin with this wonderful, inspiring quote. In the multitude of counselors, there's safety. They say, tell me who your friends are and I tell you who you are. Posible po yun. Baka yun yung current status ng buhay mo. Kung sino yung mga kaibigan mo, yun ikaw. Pero sa tingin ko, very limiting yun. Kasi posibleng yung mga tao na yun, temporary lang, hindi naman panghabang buhay. Or yun yung masaya ka during that time in your life. But I have this a version from that quote. I would say, tell me who your role models are, and I'll tell you who you might likely become. Your friends will define you now, but your role models, the people you look up to, the people who you listen to, the people who give inspiration, who speak to your heart and who speak to your mind, they will help shape your destiny. They will help shape your future. That's why it says here in this quote, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. When you're all alone, when you're trying to figure out life, you could be in danger because, number one, you might not see the dangers up ahead because you haven't gone through that road yet. You have no experience. Number two, you might underestimate your capabilities because you don't know what you're really good at. You're not really sure what your strengths are. But when you find people in your life who will speak to you, who will give inspiration to you and allow you to see your expertise, your potential, they will show you the way towards the future. That's why in the multitude of counselors, there is safety, my friends. I would like to say hi to those who are watching now and those who are watching this on replay via YouTube and those who will be listening to this via podcast. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are excited to meet this day. As I was preparing this episode, I was getting a bit emotional, but I was also very excited. In fact, so excited that I slept late last night. I'm really excited to show you the especially the what's interesting portion, because I will be bearing a little bit of my life story and who the role models are in my life. You might find it interesting, and if you're looking for a role in the life of others, you might consider watching this, especially the what's interesting and what's trending later on, as I will be talking about fathers and role models. So today, before we proceed to our feature stories, panoorin po muna natin or basahin po muna natin ang mga headlines and let us comment on the headlines today. What's in the news, my friends? Before we read the news, let's say hi to those who have tuned in early. Jason Matias, JR Ortega, good morning. At Sinita Adyong, good morning. Shout out po from Monay in Marawi in MSU Marawi City. Hello to our friends from MSU in Marawi City. I grew up in that wonderful place. It overlooks Lake Lanao and you see the panorama of the mountains that's actually between Bukidnon and Lanao del Sur. And it takes the shape of a lady sleeping. It's called the Sleeping Beauty or the Sleeping Lady. Beautiful, beautiful scenery where I grew up. And I hope you could visit. There's so much potential for tourism there. As soon as they could fix the security problems in that area, I'm sure that place will be full of tourists. Good morning as well to my cousin and family in Ozamis. Good morning to the Tags team. Good morning kaninyong tanan. Happy Father's Day. So, let's welcome the news. Let's read the news for today. Ano po ang ating mga balita? Let's go through the headlines of... Let's start with the Philippine Standard. Virus cases exceed 30,000. That's significant. So it's important for us to stay safe. And I hope if you haven't caught the episode last Friday where I talk about how we could stop this pandemic even as we begin to open, I hope you would visit the YouTube site, because that YouTube site will tell you the 5 tips, practical tips we could all observe in order to fight this pandemic even while we're beginning to open up, because we can't keep ourselves locked up. It's impossible. We will all suffer if our businesses all close down. That you cannot allow that. So we're taking a bit of risk here by opening the economy a bit, but because according to this headline news from the Manila Standard, it's exceeded 30,000, it's important for us to watch out. So go right ahead, look for that episode. That's episode 2, where I talk about how you can somehow manage this crisis even as we open up. Also in the headlines or the cover stories of Manila Standard, DSWD gather over we're getting flack for slow cash aid. There's slow cash aid down, and then all that photo there of Manila Standard is a feature on the eclipse that we experienced yesterday. Did you catch that? Did you catch the eclipse? I brought out my kids. I brought several sunglasses. I put them together, stacked them up, and then I showed them. So it was nice that Migo, Danny, and Spring, even my mom-in-law and dad-in-law and dad Nems, Trisha, we were all able to enjoy that eclipse yesterday. Let's move on to the news. Okay, what else is in the news? Philippine Star this time. Let's go to Philippine Star. Cover story, Philippine Star, modern jeeps, buses back on roads today. Interesting. Modern jeeps, this is really an opportunity to try something new. Of course, because there's a strict lockdown, they have allowed first the buses, commuter buses, and then they're allowing now modern jeepneys. They number around close to 2,000. So they will be allowing those on the road, but they won't be allowing the UV Express yet and the regular jeepneys. And then according to that story, government of course recognizes that might not be enough, and it will not be enough considering the number of commuters, but I'm sure it will provide some ease to people who are commuting in Metro Manila. That's a news from Metro Manila. What's an interesting news article from the cover of Philippine Star is DOST to try telepsychiatry for our OFWs. You know that telepsychiatry, meaning they will match our OFWs. They will pilot this in Kuwait, where they will match an OFW with a local psychiatrist. This is for cases where the OFW is experiencing psychological difficulties while working there abroad. And so our DSWD thought, since this quarantine has opened a world of possibilities with teleconferencing, telepsychiatry, webinars, and everything that you could do online, why not do telepsychiatry? Rather than our OFWs shooting their own videos, crying, posting it on their social media sites, or just calling our radio stations complaining and asking for rescue or help, maybe government should do this and provide jobs for our psychiatrists locally. Also in the news, in the Philippine Star, motorcycle backriding eyed only for private use. Angkas and there's another one, I just forget the name of the other provider, are still not allowed because they were still on pilot test mode. The government is still reviewing whether to give them a franchise for their operations. But they were allowed to operate the past how many months before the quarantine because of the need to supplement public transport in Metro Manila and in many other places in the Philippines. That's why, but Angkas and the other provider, Joyride, according to my director, J. Ortega says Joyride. Sorry, Joyride. Nothing, no bias here against Angkas. Thank you, J. Ortega. Yes, Joyride. Joyride is the other provider. They have shown how they will try to be as safe for their customers by having a barrier between the rider and the customer. But a DOTR is really eyeing this for private use, yung mga mag-asawa, magkapatid, siguro magpinsan, those who live in the same house, because that will still limit the contact between people who are not usually together. And so that might facilitate for ease of transport. It will at least supplement what we currently have, while also making sure that people stay within the community that they are with, making sure that they are not as exposed to as many people who might be carrying the virus. Mama Rosabel Leonor Wolf from A Freight, Philippines and Hong Kong, thank you for watching. To my dear Manong Bong Montesa, maayong buntag kanimo Manong Bong. Kuya Bong Montesa is a professor of law from the Ateneo de Manila. He is a thinking expert. He helps kids learn how to think. He believes that thinking is a skill, so if you are interested to seek help or gain some knowledge on how you can help your kids think better, go right ahead and follow Kuya Bong Montesa. He has put up a YouTube YouTube site to share information about thinking tools and thinking drills. So if you want to get tips on how you can develop your thinking and the thinking of your kids, please go visit the page of Kuya Bong Montesa. My brother-in-law, dear brother-in-law, Vince Medina is asking kung meron ba daw color coding. According to my sources, actually hindi ko alam. Brother Vince, hindi ko alam. Sorry, hindi ko po na-research yun, Kuya Vince, Manong Vince, Boss Vince. But I'll try to get that information hopefully in the coming days when we will have complete staff here, because the staff that we have in this show is just myself and my dearest beloved. Everyone else are working off-site. All right. According to my team here, this Mr. Vince Medina, the modified coding scheme is, wait, because we don't want to share fake news, my team will be checking the veracity of that news report. All right, let's proceed to, since we're done with Philippine Star. So bravo, palakpakan natin for the telepsychiatry for our OFWs coming from DOST. DOST. No coding yet according to the GM of Ford Motors Philippines, Marikina, the biggest branch, Dong Aberin. Makati pa lang meron daw coding. See, that's nice about this open, what do you call that? Open source news gathering. Kuya Hector Villegas, God bless to everyone in Pertua, Kuya Hector. Makati pa lang may coding. Okay, let's proceed to the Philippine Daily Enquirer. Okay, saan ba yung Philippine Daily Enquirer? Let's go to Philippine Daily Enquirer. What's the headlines? The same. New jeepneys start plying metro routes. Do you agree with changing the jeepneys? Actually, this should have happened decades ago. Of course, we love our jeepneys, the design, the story behind it, but that's also proof, according to experts, that we haven't really modernized. But the big question is, what will you do with the drivers of all these jeepneys? Ano ang gagawin natin dito sa mga nagmamaneho ng mga jeepneys? It's important for us to provide livelihood for them. But if the modern jeepneys can provide employment for if I'm not mistaken, over 10,000 jeepneys flying just Metro Manila, paano mo yung bibigyan ng trabaho? But if there is a way, pag nag-modernize ka, meron ka namang, syempre, there's going to be trade-offs. Pero kung magbibigyan natin ng trabaho ang ating mga kababayan, then hindi po yan magiging masama talaga if we modernize the jeeps, kasi mukhang tayo na lang ang napapag-iwanan. Even within Southeast Asia, they have modernized their buses. You go to KL, the train system is wonderful. Even in Indonesia, they're fast-tracking their speed rails. Not like first world countries of Singapore and Hong Kong, Singapore also, but other Southeast Asian countries are fast catching up with modern modes of transportation. So I hope this quarantine is providing an opportunity for our government to modernize our road networks and fix the trains, and also provide opportunities for new players in the transport sector. So those are the news for you from the Manila Standard, the Philippine Star, and the Philippine Daily Enquirer. As we move along, let's say hi to our friends. Okay. By the way, I read this post coming from my dear brother-in-law, Vince Medina. They're starting this consumer movement because according to the DOF, the problem in the Philippines is even those who still have jobs, even those who have a lot of savings, even those who have a lot of money, even those who can really survive for the next 2 to 3 years, even if they spend, are not spending. That's why it's important for us to help communicate the need for those who have money. Bawasan nyo naman yung savings nyo. Kung meron ka namang regular salary, tuloy-tuloy mo dapat yung paggastos mo, kasi kung hindi ka naman threatened by losing your job, businesses need purchases. And if you don't buy, then you don't generate employment, because no business, no sales, no jobs. Ganun lang kasimple yon. Halimbawa, itong aking little project that I did recently, I came up with a coffee pouch. If you could show me the coffee pouch. Is it far? It's still closed. Okay. Ito lang yung aking stuff na hindi mo pwedeng utusan. Kasi nag-iisa. Ako talaga yung staff niya ngayon. So we came up with a coffee pouch. We partnered with farmers and a roaster in Metro Manila. So we're providing jobs for the roasters and the farmers by making sure that we're coming up with good coffee that people will buy. So we're promoting that. If people are not buying coffee, then the roasters will not have a job and the farmers will not have people to sell to. Ganun lang po, and it's a domino effect. If people are not buying cars, then Kuya Hector's Pertua will not have a lot of sales for their engine oils, and people are not going to the restaurants of Kuya Vince Medina, and people are not going to ship their products with a freight with Ma'am Lenny, Wolf, So, napakahirap po ng Pilipinas kung ganun ang magiging resulta. And that's why we need that consumer movement. We need that consumer messaging to be spread all over the country because we cannot allow this economy to grind to a halt. Hindi po pwede yun. So, we make a choice. Again, those who are safe, those who have a lot of savings, those who have kept their jobs, please go and buy. If you budget for a car, please buy a car. The companies need their quotas. The distributors need their quotas. If you want to go to a nice restaurant, order from them. If you can drop by, if they observe good social distancing, dine in. If you can't dine in, order food for delivery. As long as you help. Again, konting bawas sa savings mo para sa ekonomiya. Dahil hindi pwedeng yung mga may pera lang ang safe, importante maging safe lahat. Kasi eventually, kung yung may mga pera lang, may mga savings lang ang safe, lahat naman nagsara, nagsisimula sa maliit hanggang sa malaki, hindi po pwedeng ganon. That's why let's help spread the news. Those who can consume, please buy products. Okay? So it's 8:24 in my clock, my friends. It's 8:24. So let's head over to the next segment of this program. The next segment of this program will feature something. We were done with the news. We will feature something and then we will give our opinion right in the end. So this is a magazine show. This is really not strictly a news program. This is also not just a news program. According to Kuya Gilbert Lazaro, buy local. Kuya Gilbert Lazaro produces kiosks. Now they're producing acrylic barriers. So if any one of you need acrylic barriers for your offices, you can please contact AdRush. They fabricate those acrylic barriers in any shape or form. They can even make you your own acrylic covering if you wish. Please go click. That's Gilbert Lazaro there. You see him in the chat box. That's the boss chief of AdRush, according to the real boss, Mitzi Lazaro. No, that's the real boss there, Kuya Gilbert Lazaro. Kuya Gilbert Lazaro, I hope you generate a lot of business. Hindi lang yung ating mga naglalako kasi kailangan i-sustain ni Kuya Gilbert ang kanyang mga empleyado. Consumer movement is helpful according to our dear friend, J.R. Ortega. Yes, the consumer movement is really helpful. So let's spread the news. We need to buy to keep the businesses open and provide employment to our fellow Filipinos. On to the next segment. Ang coffee ko ngayon ay from Sultan Kudarat, roasted by my dear friend Wesley Sagon of Ellipse Coffee in Antipolo. So if you want to enjoy good coffee, and I have proof there, the Mr. Dong Aberin and Ma'am Mariel Pascual. Mariel, nagsabi din si Mariel na masarap daw yung coffee. Thank you very much. Alam niyo, mataas ang standard niya mga yan. Si Dong, picky yan sa kanyang kape at GM yan ng Ford. Hindi yan simpleng tao. Itong si Mariel, taga ADB yan, Asian Development Bank. Hindi umiinom ng mga hindi okay na coffee. Kaya tangkilikin po natin yung local. Sabi ni Kuya Gilbert, local po yung aming coffee from our friends from Sultan Kudarat. And love to all the fathers out there. This was the part of the cupcake that we served yesterday. Good morning to my Manong Maseste. Uy, from Davao. Maayong buntag sa akong mga amigo diha sa Davao. Kuya Maseste Uy and his team at their law firm. Some of the best corporate lawyers. Actually, full service law firm in Davao City. You need a lawyer in Davao City, that's the guy you need to see. Okay. So, Father's Day yesterday. I told you earlier, tell me who your friends are and I told you who you are. That holds true for who you are now. But the line I released earlier was, tell me who your role models are and I tell you who you could likely become. The people you look up to, the people you admire, the people you allow to speak to you, the people you listen to will help shape you. I'm a belligerent person. Hindi ako nakikinig sa maraming tao. Pero I am blessed to have had men in my life who spoke wisdom to me. Even if I pretended not to listen, I was actually listening. I was very argumentative growing up, but I was blessed to have these men in my life. Okay. I have chosen a few men that I will tell you about who helped shape me. And I would like to say that they have been fairly successful in shaping me. I'm a very hard-headed person, very argumentative, very critical. But these men helped shape me. These men spoke wisdom to me. Okay, who did I choose? Okay? These are people who helped launch me before I began my professional career. Okay, these are persons that helped nurture me, mold me, gave me wisdom before I began working. Because when I started working, I had role models there. I had role models in law school, Dean Inigo, Dean Estrellado. I had role models here at work. Sir Ninong Ed Manda was a big role model to me. He helped bridge the gap between the bosses and us, the working team back then when we were working in the Senate. And I had role models in my first job as a lawyer, Attorney Medrano. I had a good role model in the corporate consulting world in Ninong Vic Eduave. I was blessed to have been around wonderful men who served as my role models in my life and helped shape who I am. But today in the What's Interesting segment, I would like to just feature 5 persons that I believe we can all learn from. If you're choosing a role in your life, you might want to pick one of these people or a combination of these people to help you become a good role model or father. Okay, let's begin. Palakpakan po muna natin. The first guy who really shaped me is this guy. Okay, let me tell you about that guy. That guy was a public speaker in his high school. He loved to play bowling. He loved to play billiards. He grew up in Digos City, Davao del Sur. To entrepreneur parents, they were SMEs. They were not poor. They were not rich. They were regular folk. Grew up in church. A wonderful man. Finished with a double degree in political science and public administration. Worked in Metro Manila and then eventually moved to become one of the regional heads of the human settlements back then. So he was part of the Human Settlements National Management Team and he headed Region 12. This guy, his name is, look at him, handsome. His name is Nemuel Castrodes. Palakpakan po natin si Ginoong Nemuel Castrodes. He's my dad. Nemuel is my dad and I am so thankful to have been raised by a man who's more good looking than me, who has a better sounding voice than me, who is more fit than me, who is more patient than myself, who is all of those, by the way, are according to my mom. He had so much love for my mom and my mom had so much love for him that they had a wonderful man. They fought too, but they had a wonderful marriage and I am happy to have been raised by this man. He was patient, he was soft-spoken, he was slow to anger, and he taught us sports. He taught us love for music. He taught us appreciation for the arts and good books. So he built a home that was simple but well-equipped, sufficiently equipped. But most importantly, he taught us our faith. Dad Nems, when I was young, he was a regional boss. So he was not around all the time when I was really young. Maybe until I was 6 or 7 years old. He was based in Cotabato, in the regional office in Cotabato. So he would just shuttle back and forth from MSU campus and Cotabato. That was probably about 2-3 hour drive. So he would be moving in and out. So he was an absentee dad in the early years of my life because he was working. That's part of his job and his career. And then there was a critical turning point in his life where he met God and he developed a deep faith in the Lord. And he committed himself to a church. Initially to be working with the church, but eventually moved up to become the minister of the church. And he ran that church very excellently that it grew to bless many. So I was not his only son. He had many sons, in the thousands of them. And he built a home where everyone was welcome to. They had a bed to sleep on and they had food to eat every time they went to the house. So that's the kind of man that he was. He welcomed everyone. He loved everyone. He taught everyone. He coached everyone, he nurtured everyone. But even while he was helping so many, I and my siblings were blessed because he was always around. Dad was always around. They ran a lodging house for extra income. They had businesses on the side to supplement what they did. And so he was simple. He was God-fearing. He built a home that was filled with love. We were not lavished with anything, but it was a happy home. So thank you very much, Mr. Nemuel Castrodes, and I will give it to you since it's Father's Day. Mas guwapo kanako. Mas guwapo gyud kanako. That's according to my late mom, Meli Castrodes. That's the first feature. I hope you check him out. He's still a tennis player, table tennis player, badminton player. He's now 70 years old and he's here with us on quarantine. If you do drop by, say hi to him, talk to him. Wonderful stories from Dad Nemuel there. Okay. The next guy that I want to feature is a person who served as a big role model in my life. And I'm excited to tell you about this man because he's also a dad to so many. That's him. You know who he is? He's interesting story of this man. He grew up in Butuan City. He was a chess prodigy growing up. He played a lot of chess. Brilliant man. What I like about this man, he's also not so tall, just like me. We're almost the same height. And he's a civil engineer. He's a civil engineer. He was a professor in engineering at the Mindanao State University. But what I love about him, he was able to steer his career well, choose a very good career program, I would call it. So from while he was teaching civil engineering, he found that he had a particular skill in reading, in analyzing, in organizing his thoughts. He was very good at making decisions. You know what he did? He studied law. He studied law and he eventually became the valedictorian of their law school batch. And then he became a clerk of court. Now he is the judge. He's one of the judges in Iligan City. So from a professor in engineering, went to Belgium for his master's in engineering, took up law, became valedictorian, and he eventually became a clerk of court. Now he's a judge. He's almost retirable. He's also in his 60s. The reason why I knew him, he stayed in our house. He was actually one of my parents' clients in their lodging business. So he stayed in our house for a while when he was still single. What I remember about him was he had this comic book. I don't know for old people here. He was fond of the Black Spy and White Spy. You know that comic book? The White Spy and the Black Spy, and they were trying to kill each other. So he introduced me to that comic book, and I was fascinated with the Black Spy and White Spy at an early age. I was probably in my second grade. He was living with us. And then he got married, and he found himself with his wife living a few houses from us. He became my table tennis coach. So my love for table tennis is really because of him. He took us under his wing. He fed us. He taught us table tennis patiently. He brought us to tournaments. He allowed us to experience joining the national table tennis competition with his wife, Auntie Myla. His name is Engineer Judge, Your Honor, Orlando. Many people call him Orlix Gallardo. Mad Magazine, according to Dong Aberin. You see the ages of people. That's how you know that they're old. Okay? Those who know who the Black Spy and the Spy versus Spy. Yes, Uncle Lando taught me table tennis. He helped raise me. He helped teach me discipline and strength of heart and mind. And not only that, while he was studying law, he showed me his notes. He had wonderful notes. He had beautiful notes while he was studying law. He would rewrite books. He would rewrite the lectures of his professors, put them in notes. That's why when he was reviewing for the bar exam, he was just referring to his notes. And that also helped me when I took the bar. So when I went to go to law school, I tried to imagine his notes and tried to copy it in my own notes. So not only did this man help teach me table tennis, welcomed me in his home, introduced me to a whole new world of this love for this sport. And not only that, he taught us the word of the Lord. Also, with my friends Percy and Bernard, he also introduced us to Lord of the Rings and other interesting movies and books. So that's my second father figure in my life, role model, Judge Orlando Gallardo. Take people in under your wing, coach them, teach them. But he would not lecture to you a lot, but he would show you. His approach was to demo. His approach was to show you how it is done, not lecturing what to do. Okay, palakpakan po natin ulit. Judge Orlando Gallardo. He still plays a lot of table tennis and chess. If you happen to find yourself in Iligan, please visit Orlando Gallardo. Okay. Next, tagnaan na gyud ni Jinky Boy. O Jink! Si Jinky Boy was also a brilliant table tennis player. And he's trying to guess who the next role model is. And I think he guessed it right. The next role model that I want to show you, who served as a father figure in my life. And I want you to also copy the model of this guy. Who is this guy? That's him. He grew up in General Santos City. He was a prodigy athlete. He could play any sport. If you think of a model athlete and how tall, how physically well built, you're thinking of this guy. This guy is still amazing even at this age, and he's, I think, approaching 60 already. So his name, he went to MSU and studied agriculture, but because he was such a gifted athlete, he was offered to study physical education and become a physical education teacher. He became a professor, went to Oregon for his master's in the US in sports. He became the dean of the College of Sports of MSU. He is the deputy head of the Philippine Sports Institute now of the Philippine Sports Commission. He's a consultant of the Philippine Sports Commission, one of the foremost experts in grassroots sports development. And he never married, but he's the father of so many, thousands. He's the coach of so many. He coached baseball, he coached track and field, he coached volleyball, he coached swimming, he coached badminton, name it. This guy can play it. He's an amazing person. And he took us under his wing when we were 8 years old. Together with my friends, we call him Uncle Henry. His name is Professor Henry Daut. Uncle Henry taught us badminton. Uncle Henry taught us badminton, and he raised a generation of kids that performed really well in life. Not just in badminton, but in the other sports that he coached. But I will only talk about him as a badminton coach and as a role model to me. What stood out for me for Uncle Henry were two things. You know, when I was growing up, they knew even back then that I was not physically gifted as an athlete. I was not tall. I have never been tall. I've never been very fast. I've never been also very strong. So among that batch of kids, there was Bogs Amahit, who's now the coach of the Philippine team, won a medal in the Southeast Asian Games. There was Eric Arimao and Ben Tabada, both gold medalists in the Palarong Pambansa. Riman Gallegues, who's the coach of Miriam, used to be coach of UP, also gold medalist in the Palarong Pambansa. There were others also who performed very well. And there was me, the small kid who just wanted to play. You know what stood out for me for Uncle Henry? While we were training as kids, he did the same drills that he did for Boggs, who was the top athlete, with the drills he did for me. I never felt bad that I was not so strong, not so fast. And so I developed a love for the game, and I was not discriminated. I may not have been the top. I may not have won a medal in the Palarong Pambansa. I only went up to the quarterfinals, while my friends went on to win medals in their own respective schools. But I never felt bad growing up, playing the game. He accepted me, trained me, made the most out of the physical gifts that I had, tried to make me as fast as I could, taught me the skills and the knowledge part of the game, and made me love the sport so much. That's the first. He did not discriminate. He nurtured even those who were not as gifted physically. Number two, when we were growing up in the province, in Lanao. Badminton shuttlecocks were expensive. So we did not have a regular supply of shuttlecocks. But because of his love for these kids, and there were so many of us, I think over 30 kids. This guy was training so many kids. He would solicit funds so that we could join tournaments. He would beg around, almost virtually beg around, asking for funds so this generation of kids could be exposed. And he would go to Manila and collect used shuttlecocks. Namumulot ng shuttlecock sa training ng Philippine team, namumulot ng shuttlecock sa training ng Valle Verde Country Club, namumulot ng shuttlecock sa training ng Philippine Navy, Philippine Army. He would ask and solicit funds so that he could bring with him a bag full of shuttlecocks, used shuttlecocks, up there in Lanao so we could continue to play the game. He was that. He was willing to be humble. He was willing to ask, not for himself, but for the people he cared for. If that's not a dad, I don't know what. He never became a dad himself, but my goodness, was he a dad to so many people, just by going out there, asking for help, soliciting to everyone so he can provide training, proper training. We got proper training, by the way, to these kids in far Mindanao. And it produced results that far exceeded our limitations there. That's my dear Uncle Henry Daot. Another father figure in my life. He was one of the kindest athletes according to Jinky. Okay? Let me say hi to everyone before I proceed. Okay? JV, Victor Onod, was also a coachee, was also a student of Uncle Henry. Captain Randy Campos, also an engineer. Itong si Captain Randy Campos. Check this out. This guy is also an amazing father. Captain Randy Campos was actually a civil engineering student at MSU. He was about to become magna cum laude. He was already in his 4th year of civil engineering, but he passed the Philippine Military Academy exam. And so he moved over to PMA and graduated magna cum laude still. Brilliant. He was teaching math to his teachers. And he was in fact a nominee of the PMA for the 10 outstanding students of the Philippines. This Captain Randy Campos. And he just did not join. We were supposed to be batchmates in TOSP. You know what? He did not make it to TOSP because the mail, yung registered mail that he was supposed to receive to proceed to the search in Metro Manila did not get to them on time. By the time he received the mail, the search was already over. Now he's a pilot he used to be with airlines locally, and I know he's a pilot now for an international airline company. That's and his and the second father role model, Uncle Lando Gallardo, was his professor. Okay, who's my next role model? Who's my next role model? My next role model is someone that I admire and look up to, but this is a rather tragic story. I used to cry whenever I talk about him, but I hope I won't cry anymore. I'm done crying. His name, this guy grew up in Zamboanga del Norte. Brilliant person. Graduated valedictorian in his high school class. Magna cum laude in philosophy when he graduated from college. I first met him or heard about him when I was still in high school, because in the campus where I grew up in, there was a leftist group that used to post. This was the height of the basis issue in the Philippines, and they were trying to oust the American basis. So one of these leftist groups came up with a series of letters. They entitled it Dear Philly, Dear Philip, Love Amy. Dear Philip, Love Amy. So it was a series of letters that they posted all around, but it raised a lot of issues. And what struck me with the Dear Philip, Love Amy that were posted, this was not your regular propaganda. You know why? It was brilliantly written. The Dear Philip, Love Amy series of letters were just so brilliantly written, beautifully written letters. Written in red, posted on walls, but brilliantly written, beautifully written. Only later did I find out that it was him who wrote this. He wrote this. But from being a leftist and atheist, he became a Christian. He became a Christian and attended the church that I went to. His name is Othello Cobal. Othello became my professor in Philosophy 1, and boy, did we have a wonderful time in his class. He introduced the world of philosophy to us, triggered a lot of philosophical, existential debates in class with Ding Dong, Belia Ladaga, May Antagaro, Joseph, Joe Cantaliopes, etc. in my class. It was because of Othello. Othello also became my debate coach. The achievements I had in debate was started because of him. He was our coach and moderator of the debate club. And what I love about him was he helped nurture my critical mind. He did not shut it down. He helped trigger it. He challenged it, not by lecturing to me, not by arguing, but he probed. He dug deep. He asked questions. And the way he asked questions, it just allowed me to think deeper and think more. And he introduced us to wonderful books. Othello was special. And he was also a trailblazer. He loved the campus so much that he put up a cafe and an internet shop. But there was a time when very few people were beginning to be radicalized in that area. And unfortunately, they attacked his internet cafe, the first internet cafe on campus. They burned it down and they murdered Othello. They killed my debate coach and my friend. I still get emotional thinking about him and remembering him because he coached so many. He loved so many. He nurtured the critical mind. He is also the person who showed me that the Christian faith need not be full of emotions, but it can be a thinking faith. That you are not smart because you're atheist. You can be a smart Christian, a smart man of faith. So that was Kuya Othello. And his death told me that there's something wrong in that area. That the radicalization of a few people can be very dangerous. A few people, not so many, but a few people can cause a lot of harm. And indeed, after many years, the radical numbers grew so much and they hurt my beloved town of Marawi. And it hurt so many people that we care for. And even to this day, it hasn't been rebuilt yet. So that's sad. And the story of Othello, who helped father my brain and my thinking and my argumentation and my love for literature, my love for political science and thinking and philosophy, and all because of this man. All because of this man. May he rest in peace. Okay? Palakpakan po natin. I did not cry so much there. Palakpakan po natin si Kuya Othello Cubal. Another father figure in my life. Last and definitely not the least. You know, when I talk about this, I talk about people who helped launch me. So the first was my dad. The second was Uncle Lando Gallardo. Third was Uncle Henry Daot. Fourth was Kuya Othello Cobal. And the fifth father figure in my life is actually a woman. His name is Nanay Alice. Nanay Alice took care of me when I was in law school. I went to Davao in 1996 with the help of Uncle Lando and Auntie Myla Gallardo. I was brought to the care of this widow who served as my father figure also in Davao while I was there. We were mostly alone in the house. This person took care of me. Made sure that I lived comfortably, that I was fed, that my room was fixed and clean, that I was safe. But two things stood out for me with this person as a father figure in my life. I was beginning to mature at that point, and I was beginning to talk about options in life and where I would go after. And on Friday nights, I would go home when I didn't have a lot of budget because I did not have a lucrative job while I was in law school. I was just a part-time professor at Ateneo. So I would just go home on a Friday night and I would catch Nanay Alice and we would have long conversations about life over a few bottles. Just her and me. So she was my friend, my landlady, but also she told me stories about her life and her failings and her successes and her aspirations and her dreams. She was non-intrusive. She was very encouraging of me. She provided me a space. So what I got from that is this. As people mature, as father figures, my dad provided a home where we could grow. Uncle Lando showed us how to manage a career, develop a career, learn a sport, fight. Showed me his notes. Uncle Henry taught us how to be sacrificial in seeking help, to take care of so many, and not judge based on people's physical gifts or failings. Kuya Othello helped me think. Nanay Alice was a father figure who was a friend. She was a friend to me. She was there when I needed a conversation. And she would also not talk to me when she thinks that I was busy, when I was studying, when I was thinking. She would just sit there drinking her own coffee while I was also sitting in another chair. Most of the time we were just alone together. So if I needed to talk, he was there. And if I needed to be alone, she would just be alone too. That's Nanay Alice. So the last and final father figure to me before I moved up to Manila to begin my life was actually a woman. Yes. Yes, starring kayo. Auntie Myla is her daughter and is the wife of Uncle Lando. Auntie Myla was like a mom to me, and because of her, I stayed with Nanay. So those are the 5 persons that I would love to feature and share with you today. And so as we end this talk, it's already at 8:58. I'd like to talk about what's trending. Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that? I hope you enjoyed that feature. Learn from them, be inspired by them because they raised me. They help nurture this man you're listening to. And if you're listening to this man because you trust what I'm saying here, check them out. These are the people who helped shape me. Finally, these are the people who helped shape me. Okay? So, those are my stories for the day. And I'll wrap this thing up by talking about what's trending. What's trending, my friends? What's trending? Okay, let's talk about what's trending. What's trending is still Father's Day. So just to give a summary to this thing that we're talking about. Number 1, we can have many fathers in our lives. And we should have many fathers. Like I started my conversation with you today telling you that in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. So I hope that we will be blessed with many father figures in our lives. If you don't have one, look for one. And I hope that God will bless you with one. Number 2, let's be fathers who will provide an environment like Nemuel, who provided an environment that allowed us to grow. Let's be father figures like Uncle Lando, who showed us how, not lectured us how. Let's be fathers like Uncle Henry, who virtually asked for help from all over the country, who begged for shuttlecocks just to provide for us. Like Kuya Othello, let's help them think. Let's not dumb them down. Let's allow them to have their own opinions and their own thoughts. And like Nanay Alice, let's talk to them when they need a conversation. And let's also give them space when we need space. Oh, Auntie Fe Fernandez. You know what? The place where I used to stay in Davao, in Buhangin, was owned by Auntie Fe Fernandez. Married by diplomat Kuya Connie Fernandez. Nanay Alice was their caretaker for their house in Buhangin, and they allowed me to stay there. So they are part of my life. So thank you, Auntie Fe and Tito Connie. I might have that thank you in person, but ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for Auntie Fe because she was instrumental. That family has blessed me, and whatever you're watching now, you helped shape this. You helped shape this. So we're giving back to people. So, yes, find father figures. Be a father figure to someone today. Be a father figure to someone today. 9:01, let's end with this verse. A person's words can be life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook. I've been blessed with wonderful words from those people I mentioned. I've been blessed to have been nurtured. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I have the confidence to do this, not because of me, but because of everyone who shaped me, who helped nurture me. And there have been so many. I could only list down 5 because we're only doing a 1-hour show today. But be that someone for another person this week. A person's words can be life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook. Give words of wisdom. Share encouragement. Be a father figure to someone this week. Catch me again, my friends, on Wednesday. This is your regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 9 in the morning show. Thank you very much for staying with me. Please keep safe. God bless. Be excited. Be happy for the rest of the week. This is Mark Your Day. God bless. See you on Wednesday.